Good afternoon. If you happen to notice yesterday, and it's very unlikely that anybody noticed yesterday because I noticed that yesterday hadn't any views yet. So you're probably not with me when I'm talking about being in the Hawaiian kind of mood, the Hawaiian theme. And in case you ever do listen to, and if in case anyone ever does listen to yesterday's sharing, I talked about being a Pisces. After I introduced my wrinkled aloha shirts that had been in my closet for quite some time, I mentioned being a Pisces and how that we could be protected by either keeping in a crowd, swimming in a crowd, or hiding in the seaweed. And I'm not a crowd person, so obviously you probably can't see. But this is fish and seaweed. And I was looking in my closet this morning to choose a shirt, keeping in this aloha theme. And I thought, how perfect. But no one will even notice. No one will even know, but I'm just pointing it out because it amused me, okay? So I want to have continuity. I want to continue with this journey towards clarity, this process. Again, I've been documenting this process of the journey, the voyage, to first an understanding of what clarity is. But I had to do that by first entertaining what it wasn't. Because that's how I work. If it's not this, not that, then it might be this. So it's a process of elimination, and that's the sole useful task that I've assigned to my mind, consciously giving it a job which seems to keep it in a pretty cheerful state. It's like a loyal dog. It wants to serve you, it wants to make you happy. So if you learn to give it a task. Did you lose something? Did you misplace something? Task your mind. Let it go. Suggest it. Let it go. And I was telling you that in the process of the understanding clarity, I took it to look at its polar opposite, because I see the connectivity between this seemingly contradictory condition of opposites really just reflecting one another. So it's convenient to think in terms of opposites. Maybe I'm clear of what's the opposite, then I'm clear about what I sought out to understand by examining through the examination of opposites. And I thought immediately, because I've existed most of my life in more or less a perpetual state of confusion. And again, this reality of being confused is twofold as far as I can figure. Number one is I can entertain every single possibility, and I can find something valid, something useful in seemingly contradictory concepts. This could serve me well, this could serve me well. And it's always a balance, trying to sort out. It's a juggling, right? Trying to juggle to see, okay. And the consequence of this entertaining too many ideas to see the validity in so many myriad of possibilities. And that's condition number one. And condition number two is I seem to have been come into this world lost and confused. lost because I had something was missing. I didn't feel whole. And I knew, and my life has been basically about seeking this wholeness, discovering what was missing, what I missed so terribly when I first had awareness or consciousness of a new existence. What was it? Where is it? How do I get back to it? Because I could remember all the beneficial aspects of being whole, being complete. So there's this tremendous longing, and the fact that it wasn't readily available was a source of confusion. So this confusion was the impetus in many ways, other than the longing. But it was the now I lost the word impetus. It got me started on my disciplined Rinzai Zen study impetus. That maybe through discipline, because I, correctly or incorrectly, I still don't really know, I thought that one of the consequences, one of the benefits from practicing this was learning to tame, quiet, and ultimately silence the mind so that it wouldn't impede being clear. It wouldn't impede clarity. So this is the impetus. This was what sustained me through 33 long years of study. And being an undisciplined, essentially an undisciplined person, I mentioned yesterday being rebellious, that if you tell me to do something no matter what, I'm not going to do it. And I do that indirectly, not direct confrontation. I'm a fish, I'm a slippery fish after all, a Pisces. But I forgot to add the other side, more of more redemption perhaps than just being a rebel for the sake of being rebellious. If to this day, if you ask me, I will do everything humanly possible to comply. Everything humanly possible. Ask me for anything, and I will try to make it yours, or try to make it so, to the best of my abilities. So that's the other side. Tell me, order me, give me rules. No. Set me free to learn things my way, even when they're the hard, even when it's the hardest possible way. That might just be my way. Give me this space, give me this freedom. And I always believe in giving back. And that is my willingness to do my best to respond to any requests. Sky's the limit. Okay, so I just wanted to put that in. I'm not a rebel without a cause, okay? Maybe I am, but I think the source of rebelliousness is just inherent in my nature, and it's also that consider the source. Most of the sources I've come against, the rules setting so aside, societal, political constraints are nonsensical, or usually come from a group of idiots. Power seeking, and these rules are not to make your life easier or better, but to help them to control, to help them hang on to their power, to help them get your money, to help them condition you to be a consumer. Probably the most damaging. And I don't see how capitalism could work without consumption. So it's instilled, ingrained. But 33 years, I took away a lot from my 33 years. God knows that I could stand some discipline in my life. God knows that Rinzai Zen gave me more than my share of self-imposed discipline, I have to add. I very rarely, or almost never, felt pressure from the adherents of Zen to discipline myself. Other than a reminder, sit straight, don't move. But at least the old days, the monks will hit you with a stick. Now, within the sensibilities of our times, they wouldn't dare hit you with the stick, would they? But I took away a lot from my 33 years of Zen training. But what I didn't take away is it didn't lead to awakening. And I'm not dismissing it, please. It didn't lead to awakening for me. It's only when I gave up, certainly didn't lead to clarity. Otherwise, I wouldn't be, at 72, I wouldn't be still wrestling with what this is by examining what it isn't. And today I'm going to continue on to I'm going to read a list of things that it isn't. My friendly thesaurus with antonyms help me on. But only on giving up did things really begin to happen. So I gave up on being able to have any contribution to my own awakening. I gave up on that, and things took its course. And I think part of what I'm sharing about clarity is the culmination of this lifelong, maybe I'm getting to the point where I can give up on it. And I was okay on giving up with it. I had given up on it only recently, these recent meditations, these last few months, where my process has been that clarity indeed could be mine. And that's what's pushed me these last several months. From giving up, from focusing so long on it, to giving up and putting it on the back burner, only to have it unexpectedly sneak up on me again. So my immediate response to what clarity wasn't, because remember, this is my process. I started where maybe I can get what it is if I look at what it isn't. And my first thought was that confusion was the opposite of clarity. And then when I brought that to the table, just as I used to sit in front of my Roshi, my Zen master, and try to tell him my resolution of my koan, that unsolvable through rational means puzzle that's such a big part. And I can remember sitting with him in this really elaborate setting of the ritual was really strong. And he's awaiting my revelation of what I've gotten from my koan. Personally assigned to me, specifically for me. And every time that I went through this process, it must have been 5 or 6 times before I got discouraged. Every time I went through it, he let me know that I wasn't even close. It's something that can't be resolved, and I kept insisting on a resolution. So I didn't get it. And getting it involved accepting that it's not intended to be resolved. Quite the contrary. It's intended to stop the mechanism that seeks resolution, that problem-solving mind. So, first thing I said is, okay, confusion is the opposite of clarity. And that was shut down. And then I started really delving into what aspect, what is clarity? What is clarity? In what aspect of my life am I seeking it? And the first thing was through seeing the true bottom of a pond clearly, crystal clear, because it's free of obstacles. And then it took me, so funny, that's the first thing I came up with. Okay, seeing. I said, okay, no, it's not seeing. And it took me a while to really get to the crux of the matter, which was thinking. I was so busy thinking that I couldn't see that my ambition, my search for clarity had to do about clear thinking. And again, in my meditation process, I point over there because this is my meditation chair. In the process of my meditation, I was saying, no, it's not to see. It's nothing to do with seeing or thinking. Okay, so then I'm going to read from my iPad. My iPad, I love my iPad. I went to get some help because, let me preface this with, in a meditation recently, I was given the opposite of clarity. It was given to me. It was gifted to me. It came from the atmosphere. It came from the ethos. It was transmitted to me. And I didn't write it down. And I normally do. I have this by my chair and I take notes. This is how I come up with the subject matter for my different teachings. Then the title is always really important. So I'm gifted with the title. And the rest just flows from how the process of arriving at the title. So titles to me are key. So I got it. Only to not write it down, only to lose it. I have sat for hours saying, okay, what was that gift? And probably when it does come back, because it will come back, it won't be that spectacular after all. Right now I think I solved it. I knew what it isn't for sure. Okay, so having lost that made me go to do some outside research. We're talking about the opposite of clarity, opposite of the quality of being coherent and intelligible, opposite of the sharpness of a subject in a photographic image. So that's mind. The first two are mind and seeing. Opposite of the quality of transparency or purity. Maybe that's getting closer. Opposite of freedom from adulteration or contamination. Opposite of the quality of being articulate. Opposite of the property of being legible or easily readable. Opposite of the state of being precise or exact. Opposite of the quality of being expressive. Opposite of regularity, restraint. Opposite of perceptibility. Opposite of richness or intensity of flavor, sound, or color. Opposite of the quality of being logic or rational. Opposite of the perceptive understanding of complex matters. So I can see too that last one, opposite of the perceptive understanding of complex matters. But the real, I'll go back on that, because the real key to understanding complexity is to understand simplicity. And everything lies within the realms of simplicity. It's simple. And simple does not mean easy. In fact, quite the contrary in my experience. Simplicity is a nuanced, complex. That sounds ironic. Simplicity is complex, but the process of understanding, of incorporating understanding of simplicity. And the other one, the opposite of the quality or transparency or purity. Okay, so none of this was what I had in my meditation, and none of them, this is more the traditional understanding of clarity. And this whole journey has been about going beyond the confines of regularity, of tradition. Clarity in the sense that I was seeking, I'm still seeking, is another something entirely different. So none of that helped. I sat all morning in meditation thinking that when I made this presentation that at least I would have established what worked for me as an opposite so that I could work from there. But I mentioned yesterday's talk, I was given a first taste of something that it may entail. Probably something that it does entail, I could safely say. And I called it hierarchies of importance. Hierarchies of importance. To be able to see immediately, to separate the meaningful from the meaningless. Quickly, without hesitation. This ability to understand the hierarchy. Understand what's most important. You can't see to what's the least important. The hierarchy, the relationship, where it stands in the order of things. Where it stands in the order of importance. So this was a glimpse, a gifted glimpse of that was encouraging, and it's only an inkling of what clarity will if and when I understand and I'm gifted. It's going to be a gift. I certainly didn't earn it. Or maybe I did. Hopefully I did. I wouldn't be in a position to be gifted with it. There's a lot of work and a lot of years put into this process. But when I sit and I take these hierarchies of importance. Oh, before I go on further, I want to go back to another word that I found that wasn't in. Remember, the arenas that I thought clarity included were sight and thinking. To see clearly, to think clearly. Okay. Maybe the third lesser one, to feel clearly. But feelings are most times just as misleading as the other two, seeing and thinking. Can we really rely on what we think we see or what we think we feel? Not castle made of sand, not terra firma. But turbidity, the quality of being turbid. And at first you would think of the clear. I talked about a pond that was clear. If something disturbs any silt on the bottom, turbidity is particles suspended that would, of course, these particles would interfere with the visual ability to see the bottom if you stir things up. And it takes a long time to settle. So I thought in the arena of feeling, turbidity, once you get particles that are clouding your feelings, it takes a long time to settle down, to offer clarity for the feelings, clarity for the vision, and turbidity in the mind. Those particles just become the random firing of neurons, thoughts that the monkey mind, and thoughts that just randomly are shooting through you. That's what it feels like to me. Constant bombardment. So this creates, this turbidity, to be turbid, seemed to be a pretty good. It's not the one that was gifted to me from the meditation, but it suited my purpose as far as once I saw the three arenas and how that turbidity was usually associated with seeing, but it also was equally valid when it applied to feeling and, of course, thinking. To be in a turbid state, to embrace turbidity. Now, of course, that sounds like it's a conscious decision, and I don't think anyone would consciously decide that. But through our actions, through our words, through our thoughts, it's self-induced. We're once again victims of our own misunderstandings, victims of our own shortcomings. And there's absolutely no future in being a victim. I gave up on victimhood a long time ago. It was just too convenient. And it never resolved anything if you're complaining and moaning. Who wants to hear that? Absolutely no one, in my experience. Not only do they not want to hear it, they dread being subjected to that. And if you're a victim, you'll find yourself being victimized by your own victimhood as more and more people will want less and less to do with you. People need us to be a candle in the darkness, just as the moths, the termites, when they're winged, the flying termites, are attracted to a flame, the flame of your candle. Be a candle, be a flame, be a light, and you'll never be alone. People are attracted to you. Insist in dwelling in victimhood, and it'll be quite the opposite. People cannot get away from you fast enough, cannot put enough effort into avoiding you. And it only, unless you see the error of your ways, it only adds to your sense of being victimized. Poor me. I heard Trump say, nobody likes me. Well, whose fault is that? Anyway, I almost got through a whole sharing without mentioning the state of politics and the politicians that somehow we've got and must have been we deserved. So that's where I am as I sit sharing with you. Waiting still for it to be revealed, my previous, which I thought was better. I thought it was perfect, and that's when you forget something. Maybe when I remember it won't, I'm sure it won't be quite so perfect. But I did turbidity. I like the sound of it. But it did maybe it ended the process I needed to find out what clarity wasn't, to understand its opposite. Maybe I've taken that as far as I need to. We'll see. But prioritize. That's what I was talking about when I talked about hierarchy of importance. To quickly, firmly, succinctly understand the order of importance of things so that you don't have to waste time. Maybe this quality will go a long ways to taming my confusion, my natural state, which has stayed with me to a lesser extent as I've aged and experienced and learned. But I certainly still have elements of confusion. So maybe this will help me to finally release and live without it.